Good to see you guys. I'm so glad you tuned in for today's podcast. I'm Michelle Ferguson, and over the next couple of podcasts, I want to talk to you about how to deal with pain. Pain and disappointment and frustration. Unfortunately, all of us will deal with that type of emotion, that type of feeling at some point in time in our life. But fret not, this is what Jesus died for. Isaiah 53 talks about all of the reasons that Jesus died for us, and it talks about that he bore our griefs, our sorrows, our sicknesses, so that we can have peace, which means a life, which means shalom, which means a life where nothing is missing and nothing is broken. But you know what? There's a great many people who lose the battle on the field because of pain or something that happened to them. So specifically today, I want to really address one strong point about pain, and that is never, ever, 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 ever make a major decision from a posture or a position of pain. I'm going to read from Genesis chapter 37. Usually when you hear people reading from Genesis chapter 37, they are reading about Joseph, and they're probably going to do some sort of message or sermon about Joseph. But I want to highlight some other people in this passage. I'm just going to start with verse 3. It says, "Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children." How many of you know that's wrong, to love one child more than the other? "Because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors." So here you have a situation of a father who, I guess I can maybe understand why he may have had some extra feelings for Joseph because, this is the son of his old age, and, I don't know what struggles he had. Maybe he thought it was over for him. He wouldn't have another one. Maybe he considered Joseph to be his miracle baby. But either way, here you have a father who is not operating in wisdom at all. Because not only does he have a favorite child, it's obvious. And he's blessing one child in a way that he's not willing to bless the others. Which leads to verse 4, which says, "And when his brethren saw that their father loved Joseph more than all his brethren, they hated him and could not speak peaceably among him." Verse 5 talks about how Joseph dreamed a dream, and the Lord had showed him some bits and pieces of his future, and that he would be a ruler in his future, including being in a position of authority even over some of his family members. And of course, Joseph, being unwise, decides, I'm just going to let y'all all know that, you may hate me, but one day you're going to be working for me. Clearly, that didn't go over well. Again, you've got another individual not operating in the wisdom of God. Now, just because God reveals something to you does not mean that it's wisdom to share that. You got to be led on that. But Joseph, clearly, he's young. He makes a mistake here, and now he's sharing. Even his own father rebuked him for that. So then you jump over to verse 27. And actually, before we get to verse 27, so Joseph's brothers, of course, they just continue to react from this negative place of pain. Because this is exactly what's happening here, is that they're in pain as a result of some unwise decisions that are made by their father. It's not their fault that their father had a favorite. It's not their fault that their father was treating Joseph better openly in front of everybody else. And you can imagine what that must feel like, how much that have to hurt to feel like you're inadequate and one of your parents or both your parents or your guardians or whoever prefers someone else over you. That's pain. And oftentimes, the pain that we deal with isn't necessarily always because it's our fault or because of something that we've done. Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of times where we kind of make our own bed, but there are a lot of times where that pain comes in as a result of someone else's actions. Well, here Joseph's brothers made a decision from a position of pain. And because of their pain and because they didn't deal with that, they get to the place where they decide they're going to kill him. So they go from being the son of Jacob, the son of Israel, having a bright future, to being potential murderers. How do you fall so far down into the pits? And, the Bible talks about in Genesis chapter 8 that everything in the earth operates by seed, time, and harvest. Meaning that whatever you sow in its given time will produce a harvest. So if you're looking at your life, you're looking at the garden of your life, and you don't like what you've seen, I have to ask you, what's in your garden? The answer is what you've sown. And sometimes things that don't pop up immediately, we fail to recognize that seed is still seed. And if you put it in the ground and it goes unchecked, it will produce. So this is one of the things that pain can do. Pain can give you a false license to sin, give you a false license to sow bad seed. There are so many of us who feel like somebody getting on your nerves or someone doing something they shouldn't do is an excuse for you to act up. I know a couple weeks ago, I had one of these moments, and currently right now I'm pregnant. And I've been using that as my excuse until the Lord checked me about that, for me just having bad behavior. And just feeling like I'm emotional and I'm going to say anything that I want to say. And so it was like a little bit of situation in a restaurant parking lot where this other individual, this other lady, she just could not drive. And she almost hit me. And that really made me mad, because I'm like, if you hit me, you're also hitting my baby. So, of course, I should have kept my mouth shut, but I got out the car and I just felt like I had a license to let her know how I felt about her because she couldn't drive. Now, fortunately, the situation didn't escalate to a position where, thank God for the grace of God, He protected me. But once I got done kind of confronting that lady, telling her she needed to learn how to drive and, blah, 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 the Lord was like, I hope you're happy, because you sowed that seed. And if that's what you want on the other end of that, just because of what this lady did or did not do in a parking lot, And I had to really think about that. And I want to submit this to you, is that you may not be able to control what other people do, other people's decisions, what and how that may affect you, but you can control your response. And I had to stop and thank God that nothing happened to me, because while I'm up here running my mouth at some lady, thank God she didn't have a weapon or something, or, turn around and shoot me because she was afraid of what I was going to do and blah, 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 blah. And I was putting my own self and my own baby that I had believed God for in jeopardy, because I let the pain of having to deal with this driver that I didn't think could drive control the seed that I was sowing in my own life. And that's what Joseph's brothers and them do. So then they get to verse 27. They decided not to kill him, but they sold him. They sold him into slavery. Now, this is what I want to say to you as well, is that you have to be careful when there are painful situations in your life, that you take that to the Lord and let Him help you work through that, because sweeping it under the rug is not going to get it done. Jesus died to take care of those pains, but in order for that to be taken care of, you have to first make a decision to take it to Him, which means that in all of your ways, you acknowledge God. That's a good thing right there. That'll stop a whole lot of us from popping off. If I had just thought, let me acknowledge God in this situation, I probably wouldn't have got out that car and told that lady she needed to learn how to drive, or went any further than that. But acknowledging God and making a decision that regardless to what happened to me, I'm going to make a decision on purpose to sow good seed. I'm going to use this opportunity of pain to do it God's way and allow His restoration into my life. Because if not, pain can trigger negative emotions. And when negative emotions get in your life, if you don't check that, those negative emotions will stay and become thoughts. The Bible talks about renewing your mind with the Word of God. Why? Because you got to check it at your thought life. Because if you don't, the thoughts will turn in and they'll fuel your emotions even further. Those emotions will turn into actions. Those actions will turn into habits, and that habit will turn into character. There are a whole lot of people who are so different from who God created them to be based off of pains and hurts that's happened in their past. Let me just kind of say this to you. Jesus died to get rid of yesterday. Behold, you are a new creature. Every morning that you wake up, the mercies of God are new. So you have to make a decision to take that to the Lord, to make a decision to forgive those who committed the infraction against you, even if that means forgiving yourself, so that you don't make decisions from a position of pain, because pain is just trying to get permission to alter the will of God for your life. And God has already made it clear that you have a purpose, that He has a race that's laid out before you, that you are a winner and not a loser. So don't allow pain or frustration to get in there and alter you and get you off the path of victory that God has already laid out for you. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. I want to encourage you to share with your friends and family. Also, log on to michelleferguson.org. There's lots of information and even some sermon snippets and video snippets, and in our e-store that has a lot of material that will bless you. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. As always, I'm Michelle Ferguson, helping you to discover, develop, and celebrate who God created you to be. See you next week.